It ain't our ball. It ain't our ball. It ain't our ball. It's our ball, ain't it? It's our ball. Hey!
Welcome back to the Casual GM YouTube channel. Today we have another video based on free agency. In this video today, we're going to be breaking down free agents that are coming off of down years that could be sneaky impact free agent signings. So yeah, let's get into the first player. The first player is Chase Young, defensive end. All right, last year for Chase Young, he played for the Saints. He's 25 years old, played 17 games last year. He tallied 31 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. Which, I mean, that isn't bad for Chase Young. I mean, he kind of had an up and down year last year. There was issues about his effort. At least that's what the media made it seem like. He had effort issues. But yeah, let's get into some of these teams that could be potential suitors for him. So some of the possible teams for Chase Young include the Carolina Panthers, the Cincinnati Bengals, Los Angeles Chargers, Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, and Detroit Lions. So basically how I broke this down was there's teams that really need him, and then there's going to be some teams that he most likely will go to. So teams like the Carolina Panthers, because I don't think he's going to be that expensive. Like, yeah, he's a former defensive rookie of the year, but he's had so many ups and downs. He hasn't lived up to that defensive rookie of the year standard since being defensive rookie of the year. So teams like the Panthers who don't have too much cap space, somebody like a Chase Young could be a really good pickup for them because of how cheap he is. I look at Chase Young kind of like Jadeveon Clowney. I feel like that's where his career is kind of trending. Everybody knows how Jadeveon Clowney was his big time high draft pick. People expected a lot more, but Jadeveon Clowney is not a bad player. People expected people expected him to be like a TJ Watt, a Myles Garrett, where he's getting 15, 13, 17, 20 sack seasons. But that's not really Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney is like that guy who can get anywhere from like 7 sacks to maybe 10, 11 on the best case scenario. I feel like that's what Chase Young kind of is. He's gonna be that guy who 1 year he can give you a good 8, 9, 10 sacks, which is really good. I mean, I don't think teams should be turning that down. But I don't know if he's ever gonna live up to that draft pick again. But yeah, a team like Cincinnati Bengals, another team who doesn't have crazy cap space, could look into signing him. So those are some teams, especially the Cincinnati Bengals, since they could lose Trey Hendrickson, because I think he's demanding a trade or something, or they let him look for a trade. A team like the Chargers, who's going to possibly lose Khalil Mack, and they just cut Joey Bosa. So that's another team for the cheap. That's really why I think all these teams are potential spots for him, because I don't think he's going to be a crazy expensive player. There's probably more teams than this on this list that he could probably go to. But yeah, that's the main reasons why I have a lot of these teams. Me personally, I would really like to see him on the Panthers because I feel like the Panthers is probably the best situation where he could maybe get back to like looking like a defensive, like look how he did his rookie year, just because they don't got a lot of bodies on defense. They don't got a lot of great talent on defense. He can just go there and play football. But if you want to be in a winning situation, Cincinnati Bengals, the Chargers maybe. I really like the Atlanta Falcons, especially in that division. They could definitely make the playoffs this year. And the Detroit Lions, I think, is the most ideal situation for him, where he can go in the system, not be the number one pass rusher, not get double teamed as much because you will have Aiden Hudson come back. They got Aleem McNeil. They got a bunch of other good defensive players that can really take the pressure off him, and he could just come in and provide some pass rush when needed. Next player we got is Javon Hargrave, who's 32 years old and only played 3 games last season, had 7 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 sack. So what the case with Javon Hargrave is, he played for the Eagles, had a great year. I can't remember what did he yeah, he played for the Eagles that year. They went to the Super Bowl and played the Chiefs the first time and lost. He had a great year that year, broke out on the scene, got a big free agent contract from the 49ers. And the first year with the 49ers, he was living up to the contract. He had pretty good numbers. I don't remember the numbers off my top of my head. I think he had like 6 or 7 sacks, good amount of tackles and tackles for loss. Like, he really lived up to like the contract for the most part and was a good player. But last year had some injuries, only played 3 games, 7 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack in 3 games. Isn't the best, but it's not terrible. and I think they just dropped him because one, age, two, injury, and thirdly because just the contract. Like I feel like they're trying to get younger, they're trying to get cheaper, and because they're about to pay their quarterback Brock Purdy, so having that contract just didn't make much sense for them. Some of the teams I could see him going to could be Washington Commanders as like this rotational defensive tackle that comes in and out. They just released Jonathan Allen. I think Javon Hargrave is a cheaper option that has some upside where if he could get back to what he looked like before last year, before the injury, could really be an impact player for the cheap. That's the same thing with the Detroit Lions. I can see him going back to the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, he knows that. Well, I don't want to say he knows that system because their defensive scheme since he left, but he's familiar with that team, some of the players on that team. I think it's a place he could go back to where he's competing to win, but doesn't have the pressure of being like a top free agent signing. The Buffalo Bills definitely need interior help. Another place he could go where he can win and try to get back to what it used to be. And the Chicago Bears are a team that have a lot of cap space that could maybe throw him the most money out of all these teams. Them and the Commanders, but I don't see a team throwing him that much money. But yeah, these are all the teams I think will be good fits for Javon Hargrave. Could probably maybe go back to the Steelers also, but I just didn't feel like I just wasn't totally sure about that, so I didn't put them on this list. And yeah, but I think Javon Hargrave is a real good player. If he could get back to that level he was just 2 years ago, he's a really great pickup for the cheap. That's what you're gonna notice about some of these players towards the back end of this list is a lot of these guys are gonna be guys who have real high upside that you can get for the cheap. Some of the guys up front might be a little more costly. Next, you have Jonathan Allen, interior D lineman, 30 years old, played 8 games last year, had 19 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and 3 sacks. Again, another player who kind of had some injuries last year and also just was expensive. He was an expensive player. That's why the Commanders, I think, let him go. Even though the Commanders have a lot of cap space, I think it was still probably the best move. They tried to trade him. I thought they could maybe get like a 4th or 5th round, but I guess not. So they released him. 19 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 sacks isn't terrible. Another guy that you're gonna be picking up, trying to hope he gets back to that like all Pro Bowl level. And yeah, some of the teams, a lot of the same teams I think Javon Hargrave could go to, so such as like the Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, Chicago Bears. Some other teams could include the Cincinnati Bengals, the San Francisco 49ers, who could look to replace Javon Hargrave with somebody they might believe has a little more upside and is also younger, even though about only like 2 years or so. But Arizona Cardinals, another team, they were one of the teams that were rumored to potentially trade for him. But now that he's been released, I think they could go after him. Not sure what his contract is going to look like because I don't see him getting another big contract after just getting released because his contract was too big. So it'll be interesting to see the numbers. I think that's what a lot of these guys are going to come down to. What teams are willing to pay them the most and what teams are the best fit. But I would really like to see him go to probably Cincinnati Bengals, the Philadelphia Eagles, or the Detroit Lions, me personally. And maybe the Arizona Cardinals if he just wants free reign of that defensive tackle position and like to be the number 1 guy. All right, next we have Nick Chubb, 29-year-old running back from the Cleveland Browns. Played 8 games last year. Last year was his first year back from a major knee injury that he suffered against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had 102 carries, 332 rushing yards, had 3.3 yards per attempt, 32 catches, 153 yards, and 4 total touchdowns. Nick Chubb is another one of those players coming off a big injury. Didn't really look the same at all last year coming back from that injury. So you're hoping like 2 years removed, well, maybe a year and a half, 2 years removed from that injury, he can maybe get back to that level he was before. I really don't think that's likely, especially with his age. Just running backs just typically don't get better as they get older. Like what Derrick Henry is doing is crazy impressive, but that's not the norm. I don't think that should become the norm of what people should expect from players like Nick Chubb and stuff, especially after all the injuries he's had throughout his career, especially just 2 years ago. So some of the teams that could go after him are I think the Dallas Cowboys. They've been looking for a running back for a while right now. He's somebody who maybe takes a discount or they could get on the cheap just because of the injury and have a high upside. And he's a big name. You know, the Cowboys love big name players. Passed up on Derrick Henry last year. Maybe they feel like they could get their Derrick Henry this year and get a cheap Nick Chubb, and hopefully he bounce back. Pittsburgh Steelers, another team, individual rival for years. The team that he got hurt against, so I don't know if he wants to go there, but for the Steelers, it could be a good play for them. Minnesota Vikings, who let go Aaron Jones, they could look to maybe get Nick Chubb just because he might have a little bit higher upside than Aaron Jones if healthy. And then the Las Vegas Raiders, who definitely have needed running back for a while. They got a good amount of cap space they could throw around. I don't think Nick Chubb is going to be crazy expensive, but he can probably come in and be like their number 2 running back in a committee type situation, which I think would be the best thing for them. I don't think they just pick up him and don't draft the running back. I think they should definitely draft the running back. All right, next player is Amari Cooper. Got traded mid-season last year from the Cleveland Browns to the Buffalo Bills. He's just 30 years old, which is, some wide receivers is peak years, and some wide receivers, they're on the trending downhill. So far from Amari Cooper, it looks like he's trending downhill, but maybe if he was in that Buffalo system for a little bit longer, he could have maybe played a little bit better, been a little more involved in that offense. Played 14 games last year, had 85 targets, 44 catches, 547 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So some of the teams that could look to get him include the New England Patriots, who have probably the most cap space in free agency this year. I think they have over 100 million, 120 million. And why not just throw a little small bag at Amari Cooper, add a veteran presence in that wide receiver core, get Drake May another target. You definitely still draft the guy. They just need a lot of wide receiver help to me. Los Angeles Chargers, another team that's kind of steered away from getting the big name wide receivers the last couple of years. Let go of Keenan Allen a couple of years ago. This year, Justin Herbert really made a lot with a little. I think Ladd McConkey is a really good wide receiver. I think Quentin Johnston, I don't know what to make of him. I don't know if he's trending upwards or it was just a lot of opportunity that he got last year. I don't know if he's a true wide receiver 2. Definitely don't think he's a wide receiver 1. Still struggles with drops. Amari Cooper is just a solid vet they could bring in with the potential to maybe get back to a solid 1,000-yard type receiver. On the 49ers, also another team who they're shopping Ayuk. They just traded away Deebo Samuel, so just a guy they could bring in for cheap. And still give Brock Purdy some like wide receiver help. They got Jawan Jennings. Who else did they draft? They drafted the guy last year, Ricky Parcells. So they're looking to go young, but still having a guy like Amari Cooper could help. Pittsburgh Steelers, another team that looking for number 2, number 3 type wide receiver. Besides George Pickens, and yeah, I really think just another team where the fit is there for them, especially the Denver Broncos. Also, another team who don't got a lot of wide receiver options. They had Cortland Sutton, who played really good last year, but I feel like they need a lot more on wide receiver help, a lot more. Probably tight end also for them. And yeah, those are the fits I think for Amari Cooper. Next we have J.K. Dobbins, who to me he played really well last year. Only played 13 games, which has always been a knock on him throughout his career, is that he stays hurt. But when he was on the field last year, he's just 26 years old. He had 195 carries, 905 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, which is pretty good. That's basically the first down every 2-3 carries. Had 32 catches, 153 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's a really good year for them. I don't know why. Well, I think the Chargers are going to let him test the market, but if I were the Chargers, I would have kind of probably brought him back. I don't know if he wants to be there. Maybe that's why, but I think he could be a really good pickup for a lot of teams. I don't think you should be picking him up though, thinking he's going to be your number 1 running back all year. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want a running back system, like with 2 running backs, maybe even 3 running backs, he's a great piece to have. So some of the teams I have for him include the Dallas Cowboys. Again, I don't know what J.K. Dobbins' price tag is going to be because he didn't have that bad of a year last year. Only played 13 games. I think the injury history is going to be used against him when negotiating, but he had pretty good production. So the Cowboys could be a place I could see. The Raiders could definitely be a place. They have a good cap space, so depending on what his contract is, they could definitely meet that. Cleveland Browns could be looking to replace Nick Chubb. I think J.K. Dobbins is a little bit younger. Even though Nick Chubb, you let him go because of his injury, I think J.K. Dobbins has shown don't matter really what he get injured with. If he's on the field, he still produces. So he bounces back from injuries really well. But then you got Denver Broncos who need running back help. And again, another team, Pittsburgh Steelers. So some of the same teams you saw when we covered Nick Chubb. Next, we have Stephon Diggs, 31-year-old wide receiver, played for the Texans last year, had a really bad injury, only played 8 games, but in those 8 games had 64 targets, 47 catches, 496 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which isn't bad because that wide receiving core for the Texans early on was really deep, but they just had so many injuries between him, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, all of them got hurt, and then so I think teams like the Los Angeles Chargers could definitely be a team that could be looking to get him because I think he has high upside if he could bounce back from that injury. And I think a player like Justin Herbert can definitely elevate his play at this later age in his career. When you watch him play, he doesn't look like he's lost a step. So I think he could bounce back from the injury really well. With him, though, it's about personality. Do you think his personality fits your locker room? Do you think you can manage his personality? Do you trust a quarterback to manage his personality? So teams like that's why I got teams like the Chargers, teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Rams and teams like the Cowboys with strong quarterbacks, strong veteran quarterbacks and stuff. I think they can definitely manage his personality. I think the Cowboys, he could take a discount to go to them. I don't know what his contract's gonna look like post injury, but he could take a discount and go to the Cowboys and play with his brother. Teams like Los Angeles Rams, who looking like they're gonna trade Cooper Kupp. You probably want to put another wide receiver beside Puka Nacua and Jordan Whittington. So, like I said, the Rams have managed some big name personalities like OBJ before. So I think they could definitely. I think Matthew Stafford could definitely do it with Stephon Diggs. New England Patriots, just because their wide receiver need and they have all that cap space. I mean, that's an option. Me personally, I don't think that's a fit for him. Maybe personality wise, I don't know. The Patriots might be running a little bit different than they used to under Bill Belichick, but I don't know if you want to put a personality like that with such a young quarterback in Drake May. But because they need wide receiver so much, they're definitely going to be on this list, and they have the cap space depending on whatever his contract is. So next we have Haason Reddick, outside linebacker, 30 years old. Played 10 games last year, only started 2. Had a big contract dispute with the Jets for most of the season. When he did come back, only had 14 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 pass deflection, and 1 forced fumble. And 2 starts, that's not bad, but I don't remember how many snaps total he played last year. I don't think it was that many. So depending on that, these numbers could look a lot better than maybe they look right now. So some of the players, some of the teams he could go to: Washington Commanders need pass rush help, Detroit Lions need pass rush help, Arizona Cardinals, Cleveland Browns, and Atlanta Falcons. All teams that are either losing pass rushers like the Cleveland Browns, on teams that never really had dominant pass rushers like the Arizona Cardinals and Atlanta Falcons. Arizona was the team I think drafted Haason Reddick, so maybe that interests him in going back there. Detroit Lions looking for a second pass rusher next to Aiden Hutchinson. I think they could definitely look at him. And Washington Commanders, they got a lot of money to throw around. I think they're trying to build a Super Bowl team this year. I think they're trying to compete with Jaden Daniels while he's on a rookie contract. And just having a high upside guy like Haason Reddick could be really good for them. Next, we have Joey Bosa, who was just cut by the Chargers, 29 years old, 14 games last year, 22 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Just another guy who struggled with injuries through the years, and it's really been his downfall. And I think he got too expensive for the Chargers, especially for all the injury concerns. So some of the teams I think he could go to include San Francisco 49ers, obviously because his brother's on that team, and because they need more pass rush help also. Also, another team is Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they need pass rush. They definitely need pass rush help. On the outside, Cincinnati Bengals, Atlanta Falcons, Detroit Lions, Carolina Panthers are another team that popped up. Don't have much cap space, so depending on what numbers he's asking for, they could definitely not be in this conversation. Chicago Bears, another team who got good cap space and need pass rush help. Could definitely throw a bag at him. I don't think his bag gonna be as close to what he was getting with the Chargers, but he can still maybe get a decent amount on just with the upside. Probably a lot of incentive based on contract. Me personally, I would like to see him go to either the Bengals, San Francisco 49ers, or probably the Detroit Lions. I would say him and Aiden Hudson. That'd be an interesting duo on that team. So next we got Talanoa Hufanga, safety from the 49ers. I think they said he's looking for like a 2-year, $25 million deal, something along that range. 25 years old. Last season only played 7 games, had 38 tackles in those 7 games, 2 tackles for loss, didn't have any picks or pass deflections. Just another guy who's going to be, before the injury, he was considered like a top 5 safety in the league. Like he popped on the scene, he was top 5 safety real fast. So if you're a team, you're going to be trying to hope he gets back to that level. Some of the teams I have for him include the Washington Commanders, who are losing. Well, I don't know if they're going to lose him or not, but I think Jeremy Chin's a free agent. Even if Jeremy Chin was on the team, they probably still need some more safety help. Denver Broncos definitely need some safety help. I would like to him next to Pat Surtain would be a crazy duo. Indianapolis Colts, he's been rumored to. Jacksonville Jaguars, Buffalo Bills definitely need safety help. They had Damar Hamlin playing a lot of snaps last year, who was okay and serviceable, but definitely doesn't have the upside of like a Talanoa Hufanga. And then the Carolina Panthers, who just need everything on defense pretty much, but they don't have a lot of cap space. So, like I said, all these guys, depending on the pricing, Carolina Panthers could get priced out a lot of guys. All right, next we have Davante Adams. I think he's probably the best free agent on this list that still has something left in the tank. 32 years old, 14 games last year, 141 targets, 85 catches, 1,063 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Played with the Raiders start the year. We already know their quarterback situation. That's trash. Then he played with the Jets. Everybody thought him being reunited with Aaron Rodgers was going to be make this big had the Jets make this big push to the playoffs. That didn't work out, but looking at his raw numbers, he still has some in the tank, especially considered the quarterback play he played with. 1,000 yards on a down year on 14 games. He played 3 more games. He's probably looking at what 1,300 yard season, 10 touchdowns. That's career years for most guys, and that's why I think he's still going. I think he's going to get a good little decent contract this year. I think just hopping around for the contract though, I think he's done with that. I think he's going to be looking to play on a contender, a team that can really help him, that could really get him another. I don't think he was on that Packers team that won the Super Bowl, but that could definitely get him his first Super Bowl. So some of the teams include, well, some of the basic teams we got to get out of the way that maybe aren't contenders, but they do have the contract to get him a nice little bag, including the New England Patriots, who I really like. I really like Davante Adams. I think he'd be a good like veteran wide receiver for Drake May. I think he still has high upside where he could give you 1,400 yards in a year. The other team includes, that's pretty much all well, I don't know if you consider the Pittsburgh Steelers contenders or not, but maybe if they get Davante Adams, they could be. But Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely a team. They need a veteran that wide receiver locker room. It's the George Pickens. I think he could really help maybe mature George Pickens and really be a great number 2 wide receiver for whatever quarterback they have, whether it's Justin Fields or they draft a player. Me as a Steelers fan, I hope we draft Shedeur Sanders. I hope he falls to us. I think he's going to be a really good player. Then you have the Los Angeles Chargers, who, again, they have an elite quarterback, I believe. I would say he's probably top 5, top 6. He had it down playoffs, but I think you really hone in if you're the Chargers to try to get him some good weapons this year, and not have him like do more with less. The 49ers, another team who it could be a cheaper option than Deebo Samuels and Ayuk, but still has that star upside. I think he could go there. Kansas City Chiefs, I think they're always going to be rumored for whatever old wide receiver free agent is going to be on the market. They're always going to be an option. I think players are still going to give them that championship discount, and I think they're going to want to play with Patrick Mahomes. So he could definitely go to the Chiefs. They'll probably let D-Hop walk and just replace him with Davante Adams. Then the Rams, another team, he could be a cheaper option than a Cooper Kupp, but still provide a star upside. I think Devontae Adams with a Matthew Stafford, I think that's a great pick. That's a great duo right there, because we know Matthew Stafford makes guy, like, he knows how to get the most out of like elite talent and the most out of like just okay solid talent. I think with an elite talent like Devontae Adams, we could see him get back to that 1,500 yards easy with a guy like Matthew Stafford and being number 2 to next to Puka Nacua. And yeah, that's it for this video. Some more content I have on this page include, we're doing a mock draft series right now. I have the Eagles, Chiefs, Panthers, Giants, Cleveland Browns, Falcons, Detroit Lions, Commanders. I have a bunch of mock drafts for a bunch of teams, and we're not done. We're doing all 32 NFL teams. You can check out those mock drafts that should be popping up. I also have another free agent video coming out soon. It's going to be about some of these older free agents in free agency that could be real sneaky picks for teams. So stay tuned for all that content. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Yeah, and stay tuned for the next video.
It ain't our ball. It ain't our ball. It ain't our ball. It's our ball, ain't it? It's our ball. Hey!